Hi, I'm Isabel Severson. I'm here interviewing They Might Be Giants, John Linnell. They are playing at the Englert Theater in Iowa City tonight. How are you feeling?
Pretty good, pretty good. Everyone's, it's kind of a little bit of a Sunday vibe
Yeah.
today. Everybody's slightly drowsy this afternoon, but we're going to get amped up for the show.
Cool.
And we're digging this theater. It's really a nice building. It's
yeah,
very
especially
pretty.
this couch. Very
The couch is
interesting.
nice. The whole backstage area is very pretty and kind of elegant.
Do you like Iowa? Is Iowa...
I love Iowa.
That's good. You have been with John Flansburgh since high school. You guys started as kind of like a garage band. How did you transition from high school to actual serious music?
Well, I don't know whether we ever reached serious music exactly, but we it was very gradual transformation from doing home recording. I'd say that's probably the most accurate kind of general term we've come up for ourselves is we liked recording. That was the first thing we ever wanted to do, and it led us into songwriting and performing and all the things that we wound up doing. But the initial thing we were doing was making tapes at home.
Yeah.
So that, was something we started doing in high school and continued when we both wound up in New York in the early 1980s. And we came up with a lot of different ways of getting our recordings heard. One of them was something called Dial-A-Song, which was just a phone machine that people could call up and listen to our stuff. And it was weirdly popular amongst office workers and
just during the office day, they would call you up and listen to songs. That's
exactly.
Awesome.
And just shut-ins, people who didn't live at home. It was a great way to get music out to people who would otherwise never have, maybe didn't go out, maybe didn't want to go to record stores. I don't know, but so it was kind of, in a way, it was kind of one template for a kind of music making that we got into, which was just not doing the sort of the ordinary thing of which, although we did eventually get signed to a record label and start putting out albums, and and we also played at CBGB, but eventually we figured out that scene, the New York sort of rock scene, was not really exactly the thing that we were most suited for, and we wound up performing at these little sort of performance art spaces all over New York, and there was a sort of built-in audience for that world that took to us way more than the CBGB crowd. So that was, we were feeling our way around. We didn't really know what it was we were going to wind up, who was going to like us, and we were kind of writing music for ourselves, I'd say, mainly. And we only later on found out about college radio, for example. That was something we didn't know about until we were on college radio, and we didn't have a plan, basically. So it was a long period of trying out a lot of things and getting established in certain ways that were unexpected, and developing what turned out to be a very loyal following, but also very diverse crowd, diverse in ages and who they were.
How did you transition from your sort of nerd rock to children's music?
Well, somebody suggested that we make a children's record, and that wasn't something we took incredibly seriously. We just thought it'd be a fun side project. This was about 10 years ago, and we recorded it on the sort of off hours when we were doing other stuff. We were doing a lot of commercial work, and we were recording a regular adults album and all sorts of other stuff. And so we were just, in the off hours, we were doing kids songs based on the fact that Rounder had said, they offered us a little package of money, and we'll put out this thing, and it didn't seem like a big deal at the time, and then eventually got released, and it outsold the adults project that we'd done something like 2-1. So that was when we realized this was a potentially serious gig for us, but we in some ways we were just doing our usual thing. It was just appropriate for kids,
Yeah. It doesn't really seem like your, I guess, adult stuff is much different from the children's music. Do you prefer like writing music for children or where you don't have to appeal to younger kids?
I'd say the thing that we began doing, in the beginning, was essentially what we do. And doing kids music feels like a subset of that because we are having to limit it in certain ways. I mean, it is very similar to the stuff we do for grown-ups, but we don't. We try to avoid the sort of like dark topics and like unpleasant stuff and also just conceptually too upside down. I think but it's other than that, it is still They Might Be Giants, the stuff we do for kids. But I think I would say actually mainly we like performing for grown-ups or for all ages rather than playing kids shows, just because and it's really for this very specific reason, which is it's very weird playing for kids. It's like completely different from doing an adult show.
Like an audience of children picking their noses.
Well, they're very unconcerned about the sort of what we think of as like the normal formalities of doing a rock show, where you play a song, people applaud, and you announce the next song, and you play it. And with the kids, they're not really worried about. They're not even observing that they don't necessarily applaud, or they're not even facing the stage necessarily. They might be talking while we're playing and wandering around, and it's disconcerting for us, and it made us realize like how much we depend on all those reassuring cues that an audience normally gives without even thinking about it. Like everybody's just like wants the show to carry on, and it's nobody wants the rhythm to get interrupted normally. So we're just accustomed to that. Like this is how a show works. So it's it slightly knocks us off balance to play for little kids, especially very little kids, I think. But it's fun, and there's a great advantage to doing kids music, which is you're playing a kind of music for kids that they don't compare to anything they've ever heard before.
Yeah.
You can do a song, and kids don't have this sort of rock critic in their head that all adults seem to have, where they're thinking, oh yeah, this sounds like that, and this reminds me of that, and instead they're just kind of enjoying it and taking it at face value, and that's really cool. I like that.
Okay. Since you spend a lot of time with the other John Flansburgh, have you gotten into like squabbles or anything?
Oh,
since
sure,
you've been together a long time?
Yeah, we disagree about stuff, but we've been doing this for long enough that we know how to, come to an agreement about something if necessary. We spent a long time trying to work out the title for this album, and I mean it was like 12 emails back and forth. So that would be an example, something where neither one of us is exactly satisfied with the other one's idea, and it just took a long time. But I think we still really value the other person's editorial, powers. I feel like when I wrote a song, I respect John's opinion probably more than anyone else's about the song for this project. So that's super important to me that that he weighs in and says his thing about it, and I think he probably feels the same way about me.
Which one of you came up for the idea of naming your band They Might Be Giants?
Wow, I don't know. Actually, that's a good question. I don't know. Okay, it was so long ago. The funny thing about like when you name your band, it's like it's usually the first idea that you have, and at that point you're not even really considering too seriously what it is you're about to do.
You just thought like, oh, They Might Be Giants. Let's just make some music.
Well, I know why. I know what we were thinking because we've had to talk about it since then, which is we wanted to have a name that didn't just sound like a typical band name. We wanted something that was like just off the road in a way that didn't sound like didn't lead people to immediately imagine what it was right off the bat. It was a little mysterious, and even the shape of it and everything.
They Might Be Giants? Where did that actually come from?
Oh, it's the name of a movie. It's like 1971 George C. Scott movie. It's not a particularly great movie, but it's just a
But like
interesting name.
Sherlock Holmes or something?
Yeah.
Was it like your favorite movie,
No.
or was it just like, oh,
No,
it's a
not
good
at all.
name?
No, just seemed like a good name. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Did you, so you said that you guys appreciate each other's like work on like production of music. How do you split up music? Do you just like switch off who writes the lyrics, or?
We each write songs, I'd say, for the most part. I mean, there's a lot of exceptions, but that's normally what goes on. Is we each have our little home studios, and we each put together demos, and then we bring them together, and we have the band work out a band arrangement of the song, or we just kind of insert band performances into the demo kind of thing. And then occasionally, and on this album there's a bunch of examples of this, one of us will have well, in the case of one song, I had a song that I'd written and I just didn't like the verse at all, so I took the whole vocal track off, and John wrote a new melody and a new set of words for the verse, which he sings. So it's like me on the chorus and him on the verse. That's just one example, and there's a million different ways you can collaborate with somebody. But that was and it's never something like you think in advance, like this is how we're going to write songs. I think we admired bands like the Smiths, for example, who had this one method that really worked, which is the one guy makes the track and the other guy just sings over it and makes up words, and it clearly had this weirdly successful quality. It was like a formula that actually worked over and over again. But we've never exactly come up with one way of collaborating that is always reliable. I think we like the idea of doing different stuff all the time.
Yeah. So your music is very wide range. Like, what is your inspirations for some of your songs? Like, for example, Birdhouse in Your Soul.
Mm-hmm. That's, that's one of those lyrics that's very elliptical, I think it was, with that song, I wrote the music and the melody, and it was kind of a complete thing. It was like, here's the whole song with the chords and the melody, and then I just had to come up with a lyric that went over that. So it was necessarily this sort of a little bit stream of consciousness kind of set of lyrics, and that's that's not the usual. I mean, that was an odd way to write a song. Sometimes, I'd say most of the time, we come up with a subject, and the subject is kind of defined by what will become the chorus and probably the title of the song. It's like a little headline that encapsulates the whole thing, and then everything else flows out of that. That's the usual, I would say. Is
that the same thing that happened with, for example, like Anna Ang? Like, where did you get?
Anna Ang had the Manhattan phone book, and there was about 3 pages of this last name, which is spelled Ng.
Yeah.
So that just struck me as like exotic, but obviously really common. That was the whole beginning of that song. There wasn't really anything else to it.
Did you ever figure out where there were like 3 pages of the last name Ng?
Well, there's 3 pages of a lot of names. It's obviously a very common last name.
Oh, I see. Yeah. You guys are widely popular. I mean, I've listened to your music since I was very little. Have you ever met what is the craziest fan that you have ever met?
I don't know. I can't tell how crazy they are just by meeting them. We've had really nice fans who obviously were deeply into what we do. We have people who come to a lot of shows, and it seems like maybe they don't have a job because they come to or I don't know what's going on, but they like travel around the country, and we see the same people very often, but they're nice people mostly. And then there's a lot of people who, are not necessarily demonstrative, but they clearly have swallowed the whole oeuvre entirely, and they know every single thing, and that's nice. And then there's a few actual mentally ill people who, I mean, I guess you get those. Everybody gets those.
Yeah. So no like weird stalkers or.
No, I'm saying there are some weird stalkers
Okay.
as well. There are those, not very many.
So you guys tour all over the country. What's the wildest thing that's ever happened on one of your tours?
I don't know. Yeah, wild. It's in some ways like the wildest thing is like it becomes this like anecdote that gets run into the ground, sort of. You know, there's certain ones that just get told over and over again. Like we played in Milwaukee at a theater, and the audience came up onto the stage, and the stage collapsed. That was pretty crazy.
That is pretty crazy.
That happened a long time ago, but we still dine out on that one. Yeah, I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't have any really good stories that I can retell right now.
I heard there was like a cheesesteak story.
Cheesesteak.
You threw cheesesteaks at someone.
Oh yeah. Well, I don't need to. That's actually if you buy the movie Gigantic. I think it's like an extra feature is me telling that story. So I don't need to tell it here. It's a perfect opportunity to flog the Gigantic video. Buy the DVD and then you'll get to hear that one.
Oh, cool. It was nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I'm really excited to see your concert tonight.
It's going to be fun, yeah. I think we're, in spite of what I said before, we're very well into the tour, so we know the material, and we've loosened up. We had a really fun show in Minneapolis last night, so I think we're feeling very loose, but also competent. Like we can pull off.
It's a good combination.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thanks for talking.